You think you're a woman or very much would like to be a woman, but you aren't. And I don't think anyone who is affirming your delusion is helping you.
When you harp on your right to distinguish between men and women, are you afraid that you're going to be attracted to trans women?
I'm not.
But a woman doesn't get that choice about her womb, about her ovaries.
Well, the baby is not
uterus.
an organ of
No,
hers. A
so
baby is an
you get to
individual.
make-
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be watching Michael Knowles, aka Smooth Mickey, the buccaneering Sicilian cigar merchant, being confronted by a transgender individual who comes at him with quite a bit of hostility, only to be served an almighty dose of reality, as well as a pro-abortion activist who has quite the epic dummy spit. Michael Knowles manages to not hold back one little bit while still being smooth and cool as always, which is an incredibly difficult line to tread. So with that, let's get into it.
No need to ask, is a smooth operator. Smooth operator.
Hi, Michael. My name is Demi. In the recent past, you've advocated for the outright eradication of transgenderism from public life with the claim that the supposed right of confused people to pretend to be the opposite sex necessarily infringes on your right to distinguish between men and women. I'm standing here now, a biological male wearing a dress with a pair of leggings. Do you sincerely believe that I should be subject to punitive justice on the basis of what I'm wearing? And if so, are you willing to turn yourself in for wearing women's panties in your gay college film?
Well, I'll take those questions in order, I guess. The first one, I would encourage you to behave as a man, is what I would do, because you are a man, and I don't know how exactly you came to the point where you think you're a woman or very much would like to be a woman, but you aren't. And I don't think anyone who is affirming your delusion is helping you. I don't think that they're actually an ally of yours. I think they're lying to you, and I think it's very disrespectful, and I think it will not lead to your flourishing. I think it will only immiserate you. And so you might hate me for telling you the truth, but I think the truth will set you free. And furthermore, your masquerading as a woman does infringe on the legitimate rights of other people, the rights of women to have their own bathrooms. I don't know if you're an athlete. I'm not much of an athlete myself, but the rights of women to have their own sports leagues and the like. That is not something that you have a right to do, no matter how sincerely you believe the fantasy that you're a woman. As to that Yale thesis film, this thing dogs me. You know, back in my wayward youth, I was never a transvestite or a homosexual or anything, but I was something even more morally suspect. I was a professional actor. And I played 200 roles, I would estimate, in my acting career. Soldiers, football players, real macho guys. But you play one half-gay guy in a Yale thesis film one time, it's all anybody wants to talk about. And by the way, I don't remember the exact wardrobe from that undergraduate thesis film, but I think it was male attire, but it was a bit risque. There's no question about that. The only further thing I will say about that Yale undergraduate thesis film, that is the most heterosexual thing that has ever been produced at Yale University, okay? So in the land of the blind, I guess, the one-eyed man is king. In any case, I think your second question was a little bit more of a joke. Your first question, it seems like a sincere question, and my answer to you is sincere. I'm happy to answer any more questions you have, but I'm not going to lie to you. And I think the people who are continuing to lie to you about so basic an aspect of your nature and the rights that you have in political society are not doing you any favors at all.
So having yearned for the days when it was illegal to cross-dress in San Francisco, I'm just very curious why you're so comfortable, you know, wearing drag in these films. It's a really silly.
Sure, you know, I was an actor and I wore silly costumes. I don't know what to tell you. If you have a sincere question about the issue or my stance on transgenderism or you know, any advice that you might be seeking, I'm happy to do it. But if you merely want to say that Yale is a bit of a queer school and, you know, I was in a student film, I guess I was, and I was basically the most macho guy at that school. What does that tell you about Yale University?
When you harp on your right to distinguish between men and women, are you afraid that you're going to be attracted to trans women?
I'm not.
You, sir? Are you positive?
Say it again. I didn't hear the second part.
Then why is it that you harp on your right to distinguish between men and women? If you can always tell, why is it so hard?
Well, because it's not even merely that you're putting on a dress, it's that you and people who identify as transgender are infringing upon rights and spaces that properly belong to women, and you have no right to do that. And so when you ask me, why do you care about this issue? And by the way, it's not just me, it's like the vast majority of voters who care about this. The reason is because we live in society and we have political rights, and also because we care for the truth. And the very fact that this always happens with the sexual revolutionaries. They always say, you know, if you if you don't agree with the idea that a man can secretly be a woman, then maybe you're a transgender or something. I think the implication is quite clear, which is that you recognize there's something obviously disordered about this identity. That's why in your attempt to insult people who are pointing out the truth, you're accusing them of that very same thing. But that inclination, that impulse to see that as a disorder should be instructive to you, and I think it could help you if you would allow yourself not to just cast it on someone else, but to look in the mirror.
If you ever want to explore your true self, my Instagram is @demigloom, DEMIGLOOM.
Thank you so much. I'll have to take a rain check.
I really do admire the way that Michael Knowles is able to stand unapologetically on his principles and say exactly what he thinks whilst still sounding classy and polite. You see, it's extremely difficult to do this, and maybe you guys have been confronted with similar conversations in your own personal lives, and maybe you handle them a lot better than me, but personally, having done interviews and podcasts, etc., where I've been face to face with people who have clear identity delusions, it's not easy to look them in the eye and say, you are delusional, you are not what you say you are, etc. And just to be real, if you guys met me in person, you'd probably think that I was a pretty friendly and open guy to people from all different walks of life. And maybe it's just me being too agreeable, but I get absolutely zero enjoyment from these confrontations. And actually, I find them extremely uncomfortable because I'm looking at a human being in front of me that has, for whatever reason, at some point fallen off the wagon, and I have absolutely no idea why. Maybe they were sexually abused and they're living with some sort of trauma that I could not possibly understand. Maybe their parents never loved them and they're trying to seek some sort of social validation to fill a void. Maybe they're suffering from such a deep sense of self-loathing that they resort to masochism and self-mutilation. And so with that in mind, even if somebody is as unpleasant as that man was to Michael Knowles just then, I still do hate seeing people suffer, and it's very difficult to tell somebody that's already in such a bad place how delusional they are. But the truth is the truth, and the truth hurts. And when you think about the broader implications, not only for the individual that you're speaking to, but for society as a whole, when we don't tell the truth, it all of a sudden becomes apparent that not only is it the right thing to do to tell the truth, but we actually have a duty to do it, despite how difficult it may seem. Now, in this case, this dude was clearly out trying to humiliate Michael Knowles with his question.
Turn yourself in for wearing women's panties in your gay college film.
So Michael would have been justified in going way, way harder. But nevertheless, I appreciate and admire how classy Michael Knowles is in his responses. And now on to the next part, where a young abortion activist lady comes to Michael with a philosophical hypothetical that she thinks is going to stump him. So, will she stump him? Let's see. But first, guys, before we get to that clip, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get into it.
Hi, Michael. Do you believe that organ donation should be mandatory?
I do not.
You do not. Okay, so if you believe that even a dead person has the right to bodily autonomy, even if that dead person's organs could save up to 8 lives, and yet you also believe that women should be legally mandated to sacrifice their bodily autonomy in order to save the life of a fetus, by your own logic, a corpse has more right to bodily autonomy than a living, breathing woman.
Well, you imposed upon me a liberal view that I do not hold, which is that my views of abortion come from some sense of bodily autonomy. I'm not a huge autonomy guy to begin with. I don't think that I own my body. I think my body is sort of a gift, you know, and I have obligations to my creator. The reason that I don't support mandatory organ donation is not because of some liberal conception of autonomy or something. It's because that's not what your organs are for. Your organs are for you. Your lungs are to bring oxygen to your blood. Your heart is to pump blood around your body. Your liver is to take care of what I will probably do later on at the bar after this speech, and so on and so forth. My organs are not for you. Your organs are not for me. So you can give an organ donation, and that can be a lovely thing to do, but you aren't obligated for it because things are known largely by what they are for.
Okay. It sounded like you were just going to be anti-organ donation for a second. I was like, that's weird.
No. But I am against, going in and stealing people's organs. I think that would be quite wrong.
Stealing from a person who isn't alive, which gives them
I
more
think
right-
desecrating bodies is pretty
more right
bad,
to their own
or
body
like
than-
digging up graves is bad too. Yeah.
If you don't believe that withholding resources like life-saving organs, which you would die without if you have organ failure, if you don't believe that withholding resources like that means that you're killing a person, would you be pro cutting the umbilical cord rather than removing a fetus so that the fetus would no longer be able to grow without the nutrients it needs?
I think it would be wrong for a mother to kill her child. So I don't view my organs, say, as resources, as you've put it in a kind of like materialist liberal way. I kind of think of them as my organs, and I think of my body as like my body, and I think of me as a person, not just a big sack of flesh that can be chopped up for the pleasure of some liberal technocrat. Call me old-fashioned, I guess. But then you turn to this example and you say, well, okay, what about cutting the umbilical cord eventually you do cut the umbilical cord when the baby comes out, but what about cutting the umbilical cord or otherwise killing the baby? I think that would be quite wrong to do, because your baby is not for your killing. Your baby is not justifying some kind of murder. That was the topic of our discussion tonight. And furthermore, a woman's womb, which is another organ that you haven't brought up, has a purpose too. And the purpose of the woman's womb is to grow a baby. And the baby is not just a clump of cells or a parasite or any other dehumanizing way that the liberals talk about it. The baby is your baby. And when mothers kill their babies, that's contrary to reason and contrary to nature.
So back to what I was saying, you love doing this thing where you go off about some nonsense that isn't what the original question was about.
Logic, yes. Yeah,
but
I know. I do occasionally.
Logic
occasionally
that is
apply that.
entirely unrelated to what I was saying in the first place. But
what were you saying? Perhaps I misunderstood. I thought I understood.
you misunderstood. So withholding resources.
Right. Yeah, I suppose I just don't.
Someone will die.
Yeah,
When
I
you
suppose
have organ failure, not having an organ donor kills you. Surprise. So withholding resources from them, that isn't killing, that isn't wrong. But withholding resources from a growing fetus, somehow that's different. And the way
as
you
I tried to
make that leap, I'm getting confused there.
You are getting confused. As I tried to explain, you are beginning with a premise that all of our organs are just undifferentiated resources to which any of us might be entitled. And that's a novel view. It's a view held by, I guess, some rather extreme liberals or materialists, but it's not a view held by me. I don't think that it's all just undifferentiated flesh. I think that things like organs have both form and matter. So there's the matter, there's the flesh, there's the stuff, but then there's the form, which tells you about what that thing is. And so my liver might look a lot like your liver, but they're different livers. One's mine, for instance, and one is yours. So you don't have a right to mine, and I don't have a right to yours, because your liver is for you, and my liver is for me. And we all know this, and we all act that way. That's why you're not coming up here and attacking me and ripping my kidneys out and selling it on a market in Wuhan or something like that. But we pretend that we don't believe these things because it helps to advance an argument which is totally indefensible and unnatural, namely that we ought to kill a baby or something like that.
So your organs are for you and you alone. You get to decide what to do with them. But a woman doesn't get that choice about her womb, about her ovaries.
Well, the baby
about
is
her
not
uterus.
an organ of
No,
hers. A
so
baby is an
you get to
individual
make
human
choices
being.
about your internal organs, but a living, breathing woman does not.
Well,
okay, I understand.
No, I don't think you do understand, because I don't think you understand very well at all, unfortunately, because you're suggesting that the baby is an organ of the woman, which is preposterous, obviously. You know, the baby is differentiated from organs by its DNA, by how it will develop, by, I don't think she's listening to the rest of my answer.
Not worth listening to, Matt.
Matt! You know what that was like? That girl knows something so smart, which is, when I was a young man, a single guy, right, the best way that you could really, if you liked a girl and, you know, the girl was seeing some other guy, the best way you could needle the guy is by getting the guy's name right. You say, hey, you know, how's Mark doing these days? Oh, actually, his name is Mag. Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay. Real nice. It's not Smokey Matt, not Smokey Ben, not Smokey Candace.
So guys, just a word to the wise here. If you're ever in a debate with somebody and it gets to the point where they start yelling their points at you and running away, then you can be safely assured that you have won that debate convincingly. And the reason why this young lady had to run away was because obviously she was getting completely eviscerated in the debate and her logic did not make any sense. And so she found herself in a position of checkmate, but instead of conceding and instead of having an introspective look at her own worldview, she decides to run away with her fingers in her ears. I mean, there's obviously a major difference between an organ and a child. And even she knows that, but if she's to acknowledge that, then she has to acknowledge the reality that the big mean conservative Michael Knowles is right. But unfortunately, as is the way with many of these leftist activists, it's not really about the truth, it's about the ideology. So with that, guys, make sure to find me below at all of my links. And if you guys want to subscribe to the channel, don't forget to click right here. If you'd like to watch another video, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.